Perfect conditions for triathlon, and Australia's elite are gathered for the fray. There's the young world champion Chris McCormack, Craig Walton, the former junior world champion, Greg Bennett, always consistent and due for a win, and Miles Stewart, the 1991 world champion, recently out of form.
I'm pretty much going with what I've got. My strength at the moment is the fact that I'm riding very well, and on a course like this, the hills won't take as much out of me as some of the other guys, so whereas they're probably running a bit better fresh, I'll probably be running the same as them off the bike.
Craig Walton hopes to continue his good form from the Sydney ITU race 2 weeks ago.
My basic tactics are to go hard from start to finish, really, you know, and take the bike out hard. And once I'm out of the swim, hopefully I've got a bit of time on the next group with Ben, hopefully. So, you know, Ben and I hopefully will be pushing hard on the bike, and you know, hopefully I can go one better than Sydney.
And among the star-studded field of women, Queensland's Jackie Gallagher has a point to prove against arch-rival Emma Carney.
Well, Emma's obviously the person to beat. I mean, she's established as one of the most consistent and best triathletes in the world. But my tactic will be, to try and have a lead on her out of the swim, which I think I should on current form. I've been swimming pretty well. And then, you know, to work it hard on the bike, make it hard for her to catch me, and if she does, you know, make her hurt to do it, and then, you know, maybe we'll have a running race, or maybe I'll even get off the bike in front of her.
There's much at stake here at Mooloolaba in Queensland for the 1998 St George Australian Triathlon Championships. Assembles at the shoreline, focused on the 2 hours of endeavour that awaits them. Tactics will play a big part, with Craig Walton and Frenchman Ben Sanson expected to try to break away during the swim and bike, while the great runners in the field, McCormack, Bennett, Stewart and others, will be concentrating on staying in touch until that vital final leg. The 1.5 kilometre swim will take place in ideal conditions. The water's warm, around 20 degrees. Away, and the frantic sprint to the water to try to place to advantage at the head of the pack and avoid the traditional melee of arms and legs, which make the first few minutes a real test of strength.
You know, I'm the world champion, I'm not an Australian champion yet, so I've come up here to win. I think I'm ready to win, and it'll be nice to win.
Chris McCormack will be a force in this race. As the athletes settle into their swim rhythm, the field briefly splits into two. But the lead, as expected, is with Craig Walton and Ben Sanson, swimming in the group on the right of your screen. They continue to power through the water, leaving very good swimmers in their wake. Although Trent Chapman, not a noted swimmer, and Miles Stewart are handily placed in the second pack. At the first turning buoy, the two favoured swimmers are implementing their pre-race plan successfully, but Craig Walton does feel there are danger men lurking behind him.
You can't count out Greg Bennett or Chris McCormack. I mean, Greg Bennett, he put in a great run in the Fuji Xerox Tri Tour, you know, and he actually outran Welsh, I think, by 30 seconds. So, I mean, he's going to be really up there. And, you know, Chris McCormack, this year's world champion, he's going to be very hard to beat as well. So I think it's a bit of an unknown quantity out there, and you know, we'll just wait and see tomorrow, but it's definitely going to be a top-class field.
And on the subject of class, it's welcome once again to Mark Fuel.
Thanks, Billy. And as we said before, Ben Sanson is a superb swimmer, and he's opened up a lead even over Craig Walton, even though the two of them did plan to work together. But Craig Walton is in very good form. He won the Noosa Triathlon, which was the first leg of the St George Tour back in November. And unfortunately, he did have some problems between then and the World Championships, developed a stress fracture, and had to drop out of the Australian team, but he's come back to force. He was second at the Sydney World Cup just a couple of weeks ago, and he's a very, very big, strong triathlete and a fantastic swimmer. And once he gets onto the bike, that's where he and Ben should work very, very well together. Ben Sanson is also a strong cyclist. He won't run particularly well today, but he will certainly give it everything he's got to try and pull Craig Walton around this course.
Sanson recently struggled in the Xerox Tri Tour, which finished just a few days before this race. I wonder if he can finish this event today. Watching on the sidelines, on the shoreline that is, Brad Bevan, 5 years St George Formula One champion. He's suffering from an Achilles tendon injury. Interested, but no doubt very disappointed today. Ben Sanson, meantime, has done a great job to maximise Walton's chances of taking the race. He's increased the pair's lead throughout the leg. It's been a consistent and well-judged swim. He is grace and power in the water and leads the pack onto the beach by an amazing 1 minute and 20 seconds. Walton, having received the benefit of his draft, only 10 seconds behind. The run up the beach across soft sand will be a chance for the good runners in the pack to make up valuable time. But Ben Sanson manages to hit the transition first, closely followed by Walton. They look like taking a great advantage into the bike, and the likes of Trent Chapman out of the water near the head of the main bunch, with Chris Hill and Shane Reed, who have swum well, closely followed by Andrew Johns, who leads the Triathlon Australian Tour, and Miles Stewart up there as well. Trouble for Walton here as they attempt the first of 8 laps of the hilly 5K course. He accidentally knocked the bike of another competitor, forced to return it to the rack. Frustration and impatience for Sanson, who's waiting for him out on the course. There's a danger of losing any advantage here if they can't work together. Ben checked anxiously behind him there, having seen the incident in transition. There's not much gain in cycling by himself. Walton will need to work quickly to pick Ben up as soon as possible. As the tail of the field reaches the beach, the real threats to Walton are in transition. Chapman and Bennett among the first few to reach the racks. Precious seconds lost at this vital stage will leave some with no chance of a prominent finish. Kiwi Paul Amy, although suffering from a virus, is prominent. Chris Hill leads Chippy Slater out. Chippy is a noted cyclist. He'll be one of the hard workers in the pack once it's on the road and settled into the leg. But Craig Walton is still the man to watch in this bike stage.
The aim for me in the bike usually is to go hard from the start, you know. That's the most important part of the bike for me is I think the first 5 kilometres, getting as much lead as I can, especially with this course. You know, it's a 2.5K out and, you know, then the guys can see me after that. So the most time I can put into the guys behind me in the first 2.5 to 5 kilometres, the better, you know, because once they see how far in front I am, they're going to be going hard behind me.
Craig Walton, Ben Sanson leading the bike at the end of lap 1, but the pack is closing. When we return, the bike continues and the women's race is about to begin. The race for the 1998 Australian Triathlon Championships continues with the bike leg in Mooloolaba. The past few weeks of the grueling Xerox Tri Tour have taken their toll. Neither Ben Sanson nor Craig Walton able to maintain the pace in front. The pack has closed 50 seconds and enveloped them. From now, it will be a matter of tactics. Will a group try to break away and gain an advantage for the run? Or will it come down to a last frantic sprint at the end of this race? There's still a long way to go on this leg, and much can happen. But every athlete goes out with the hope of doing well. Some think they have every chance, and one of those is the ultra-consistent Greg Bennett.
I think I can this time. I'm going in with a lot more confidence than I have ever done in the past, and I'm feeling healthy and fit, so I'm going to be giving it a go. I'm not racing for second or third, that's for sure.
There are now emerging all the doubts in the minds of those who are not so strong on the run, hoping for a lucky break on the bike. Maybe they thought the better runners would have been left in the chasing pack. Well, Chris McCormack is one, glad to be up there at the front.
I'm very happy. I'm where I want to be, and you know, I think I'm ready for this race. I'm really eager to race, which is good, and you know, I hope that last year propelled me to bigger and better things, and that's what I'm happy to do this year.
The strain is beginning to show. Those at the back of the pack seem to be struggling to stay in touch as the leaders apply pressure, taking turns at the head. Chris McCormack thinks the bike may take its toll.
It's a tough course, you know, there's 8 laps on the bike, which means we go over the hill over Alexandra Headland 16 times. So in the past, it's tend to break up the pack, and there seems to be a lead group that gets away. And with a tough bike ride, you know, it makes the run very tough, especially when we've got to go up the hill another 4 times. So it's a tough course.
As the men continue on that tough bike course, the women are beginning to ready themselves for the challenge of the same 1.5 kilometre swim, 40 kilometre bike, 10 kilometre run. As always, there are some nursing injuries, others brimming with confidence, and others stay very quiet, concentrating on the job.
Well, about just over a month ago, I had an accident off my bike. I doing a cycling criterium. I sort of face planted and got a nice big whopping scar on my face, and was in a neck brace for a couple of weeks. So I've missed out on a little bit of racing and a lot of training. And but I'm hoping after a week of solid training since I've come back that I'm going to have a good race this weekend.
Joanne King quietly confident.
It's 5 weeks after the Ironman, so I think I'm sort of ready to sort of give it my best again, and my goals for this is obviously to finish top 5.
The men are approaching the final stages of the bike leg. Ben Sanson has dropped off the back of the lead pack and withdrawn from the race. Craig Walton, well, he's still up there, but there are reports of problems with his bike. Bad luck for the man they call Waldo, who was hoping for better things in this leg, and of course a first-place finish. He ran second to Greg Welch, who is not competing due to a dose of the flu, in the Sydney ITU race just 2 weeks ago. Still doing a lot of work at the front are some of the contenders for top honours here. Chris McCormack, the world champion. Chris Hill, a former world junior champion. Greg Bennett, yet to nail a big race. And Trent Chapman. They're the leading contenders at this stage, and it looks as if the eventual winner will come from that few. On the beach, ready for a start for the women, the enigmatic Carney hasn't spoken much, focused and determined. The contest with Gallagher will be absolutely absorbing. But that will probably be later, as neither is a noted swimmer. The likes of Loretta Harrop and Rena Hill will be more prominent in this leg, and Jo King, fresh again after her second of the Foster Ironman, will no doubt feature during her strongest leg, the run.
They're off, and the start of the women's race here at the Australian Triathlon Championships. This is the biggest race of the year for many of these athletes, particularly those that don't make the very, very tough elite team to go to the World Championships. Jackie Gallagher there got a great start, and also Loretta Harrop. You can see her porpoising off the bottom, using the sand to push herself off and gained a little bit of momentum. That looks like, I believe it is Loretta Harrop out in front. Penny O'Connell also got a good start, and Rena Hill from Queensland. Some of the others to look for in this swim league are Emma Carney in the yellow cap, Joanne King in the pink, who has improved her swim out of sight, Rena Hill in the green cap, who'd be expected to be up there early, and Melissa Ashton in blue. All those competitors likely to be very well today. But remember that we also have some other great competitors in this field. Look out for Jenny Rose from New Zealand. She's a very strong cyclist and runner.
Beautiful conditions here. The water is so still for really what is a surf beach. Loretta Harrop is a Queensland local and a crowd favourite. She's confident of making her mark today.
I think the more I'm racing, the stronger I'm getting, and Sydney ITU race was definitely a race for the stronger. I think not so much a fast course, and I was really happy with my form, and I'm looking forward to this weekend.
And Harrop continues to gap this class field. She leads by nearly 30 seconds at the halfway stage, but Hill has improved her swim and is prominent.
My swimming's come up to scratch pretty quick in the last week of training. I've swam every day, and it feels like it's getting better again, and almost to where I left off. And I'm sure on the bike leg, I haven't really missed too much biking because I've been able to sit on the wind trainer, and that it's just going to be my running. It's going to be the tell-all.
But Loretta Harrop continues to lead the women into the final stage of the swim as the men complete the bike leg. When we continue the 1998 Australian Triathlon Championships in a moment. The men's race for the 1998 Australian Triathlon Championship, now at a critical stage. Approaching the last lap of the bike leg, the question in each mind is whether to try for a breakaway in an effort to beat the traffic into transition and get clear for the run, or stay with the pack, conserve energy and perhaps make the move at a later stage of the race. Greg Bennett, who really needs this win to establish his career, is feeling good.
I've always been the chaser in the pack, and it's always taken a lot out of me for the run. I realise now that I actually do have quite a strong run leg if I can use it and be fresh off the bike. For this race, I'm going to have to try and motivate the other guys in the pack to do a lot more work with me.
Well, Harrop now has opened up an extensive lead over Penny O'Connell and Rena Hill, and looking extremely strong. Loretta Harrop does come from a swim background. Both her and her brother Luke were swimmers at a national level as juniors, and both of them have told me that they don't do anything by halves. When they get into something, they go at it as hard as possible, and Loretta here showing just that true nature.
An interesting mark to see, quite different lines being taken by the swimmers. The second or third place swimmer, it's hard to tell from this angle, is quite a distance away to Loretta's left.
Well, Loretta is used to swimming out in front and used to drawing her line. She'd be looking up from time to time and picking a landmark on the beach to swim towards. Here she comes heading into the beach. Some of the more inexperienced swimmers, or rather the inexperienced open water swimmers, who tend to sit on people's feet, if they're out in a position by themselves, they're not quite as good at drawing the line. But Loretta Harrop has been out in front many times in these swim, and as you can see, as you mentioned, Billy, over there on our right, there's Loretta getting to her feet, and over on the right was Penny O'Connell and Rena Hill.
Swimming absolutely locked together, but Harrop first onto the beach, has a quick look around to establish her position, and she's taken a perfect line. She has to run straight up into transition.
As she has in many other races, Loretta Harrop comes into transition with a 25-second lead and a very slick transition. The sunglasses go on, the helmet on, and having a little bit of trouble there. There is Rena Hill in the green cap and Penny O'Connell. A great swim from her. Penny has performed well in the St George Tour races in Noosa and also in Canberra. There's Loretta Harrop heading out onto the road, 40 kilometres of cycling ahead of her.
Rena Hill coming into transition now. Very important, as you saw Loretta putting that number around her waist. That's a disqualification matter, so you notice Rena there has got it on. They shift it round to the front for the bike leg, sometimes at the back, depending on whatever's comfortable.
Well, I think it will be tough for Rena and Penny O'Connell to catch up with Loretta Harrop. She's a real demon on the bike, and she'll just be trying to stay out in front for as long as possible and try to gain a lead heading into the 10-kilometre run.
Further back in the pack, of course, are the two women everyone wants to beat, Emma Carney and Jackie Gallagher, as we see more pour into transition there. Very busy at this stage of the race. But Jackie Gallagher seems to have had a premonition about how this thing will unfold.
Loretta Harrop should lead out of the swim and probably establish a lead on the bike as well. She's swimming and riding very strongly at the moment. She'll be the one to chase. I'm hoping the swim should really suit me here. I'm hoping to have a really good swim. That's my main aim, is to have a really good swim.
Jackie is spot on so far, but can she realise the rest of her dream, and that's to take the race over rival Emma Carney?
Well, Emma Carney has come out 1 minute 40 behind Loretta Harrop, so she's a minute behind the group that contained Melissa Ashton, Lena Edmonston, Beth Thompson, Jackie Gallagher, and amazingly Joe King also in there.
Back on the men's bike leg now, and Craig Walton taking a turn.
Well, the main pack did catch Craig. Craig Walton and Ben Sanson had a lead of around about a minute at the end of the first lap. They pulled that back to 30 seconds, and now on the third lap, they have caught him, and Ben Sanson is no longer in the race. So Craig Walton now must ride with the pack and rely on his running. But there are some fantastic runners, and there's Chris Hill. Chris Hill is making a break. He's heading towards transition. This is the last lap of the bike, and he is looking for a break, a bit of clean space between he and the pack heading into transition in an attempt to open up a lead on the 10-kilometre run, because as we have seen many times before, a matter of seconds can be the difference between first place and fourth.
Like many of the young athletes coming through in the Australian ranks, Chris Hill needs to just polish that run a little bit. Hopefully he'll give himself some time to balance, settle, and perhaps produce the run of his life. Now, back in the women's bike leg, and Loretta Harrop working hard.
Well, Loretta here isn't waiting around for the main pack. She's just going to go out in front, ride as hard as she can, and she is a very, very good cyclist. What is different about this race here today is that she doesn't have Nikki Hackett and Melanie Mitchell with her. They raced in the junior event this morning, and Nikki Hackett taking the junior title. And Chris Hill now still out in front, and there's the pack behind him. Another 12 guys coming in transition. Troy McKenna in there, Greg Bennett, Chris McCormack, and also Trent Chapman and Miles Stewart.
Very important transition this for Chris Hill. You can see the break is hardly noticeable, just enough though to give him some opportunity to have a clean transition. Well, maybe not, because while he dismounted very early, the other riders stayed on their bikes and just rode right up to him. So it might not be as smooth for Chris Hill as he anticipated. Perhaps a little bit of a wasted effort there, although it looks like he will be first out onto the run course, ahead of Trent Chapman, who's flying. Now there is a couple of young guns in Australian triathlon leading the rest. Shane Reed is out there as well.
Well, that was a fantastic transition there from Trent Chapman. We saw Greg Bennett going out almost in last place, just ahead of Andrew Johns. Greg Bennett had a very bad position on the bike rack there and had to run a little bit of extra distance. But you can see it's going to be a torrid battle. There are 13 guys heading out onto the run, all of them wanting this very, very valuable Australian title.
Well, Triathlon Australia Series leader Andrew Johns is just in touch with the leaders. A win today would certainly cap off a great year.
It'd mean I win the series and 2 Australian Championships this year, so it'd be a nice way to end the season.
Well, Andrew Johns is virtually unbeatable in terms of the series points. He's 15 points ahead of his nearest competitor. But Paul Amy now out in front. This could be an upset. Could a New Zealander win the Australian Championships? Has never happened before, and he's certainly making it hard. There he is saying to the motorbike camera, "Get out of my way, I'm coming through."
Well, it's been a very interesting fortnight for Paul Amy. You see Trent Chapman there in second place. Amy was battling with a cold, which has developed into quite a nasty virus for the last couple of weeks, right throughout, in fact, the Xerox Tri Tour. He was coughing incessantly. It's very, very annoying. And, of course, when you're an endurance athlete, one of the worst things that can happen to you.
Well, there's a shot there of the women's bike league still continuing, but back to the run. Trent Chapman now, the man who finished third in the 1996 World Junior Championships, taking control, and Paul Amy has had a virus, so he may start to fade. And Chris McCormack is making a charge from behind. Shane Reed, who came to prominence here early in the piece. This is the next pack. They are 3 minutes behind our leaders, and Eamon Nunn there heading out, and Peter Robertson, who came to fame, along with, there's Luke Harrop, came to fame, of course, by beating Brad Bevan in a couple of races in the St George Formula One Series.
A long way back today in a very talented field, but this man who often has plenty to say, not only on the course but verbally, Trent Chapman, he's quite a character in this series. Chris McCormack, the world champion there, trailing Paul Amy in third place. Hill is still hanging on with Shane Reed, Andrew Johns and Greg Bennett, looking good, but still some distance back. Craig Walton there rounds the corner.
And Ryan Carter just behind him. And there's Craig Alexander, currently second place on the tour. There's Chris Hill. It was actually Troy McKenna out in front. Here goes Trent Chapman. Trent Chapman has had a fantastic surge in his performances over the last year. But on this downhill section, and it is downhill for around about 800 metres, this is where Greg Bennett will really make up time. On the last leg of the Xerox Tri Tour, he actually ran a sub-30 10 kilometres, outrunning Greg Welsh by 30 seconds, and Welsh himself said nobody can run the downhill like Greg Bennett, and he will use this to his advantage.
In fact, a hilly course in Geelong during that Tri-Tour, in fact, in the middle stages of that tour, featured Greg Welch and Greg Bennett running together as a team, and it was a very hilly course. Welch, Bennett said, took him up the hills. Bennett took the lead down the hill, so that only emphasises his power in that part of the run.
But Trent Chapman is still out in front. He won Nepean this year over Tim Bentley, who'd won it 5 times previously. And back to the women's pack now. And that is the second pack. Beth Thompson there, the youngster from Perth. She's a real workhorse on the bike. Whenever you see a pack, if she's in it, she will more often than not be at the front. Jackie Gallagher behind her. I would say that in that pack, those two will be the only ones taking turns at the front. Both of them are very, very strong, and the others will sit in and go along for the ride. So Beth Thompson here once again pulling the train, and she does not let up. She finished second at the World Junior Championships over in Perth last year, and topped off a very, very strong run, finishing just behind Nikki Hackett.
Great learning experience here for the likes of Beth Thompson. But of course, sooner or later, like the McCormacks and the Bennetts in the men's division, they have to break that mental barrier. That is the ability to feel as though they can beat the likes of Gallagher and Carney.
Well, she's still only very young, 20 years of age, so she's got a lot of years ahead of her, and I'd say that as she matures, she will just get stronger and better on the run. Jackie Gallagher there, currently in second place, the 1996 world champion in both triathlon and duathlon, and she's in a good position at the moment because Emma Carney's pack is 30 seconds behind.
Trent Chapman, though, still leading the men's run. They're a little spread out, but one man is chasing, and that is Greg Bennett in hot pursuit with the reversed cap.
And Chris McCormack right on his shoulder, so you can see it just after one lap how much that downhill section meant. Already the field is starting to split up, and Troy McKenna is behind there. This has got to be Troy McKenna's best race ever. He performed fairly well over at the French Iron Tour last year, but never in Australian Championships has he been so high. He's having a fantastic race today.
And a good tour for McKenna, a good race here will stand him in good stead for a place perhaps in the St George Formula One Series for next season, which is even hotter than ever because contracts have been reduced from 15 to 10. The battle to win a place in that field will be very, very hot. And you can see McCormack and Bennett just encroaching on that gap that Trent Chapman had set up. It's getting closer all the time.
Well, Trent Chapman really has had a fantastic domestic season, second in the St George Tour race at Canberra. But here come the stars. Chris McCormack, the world champion and winner of the first World Cup race last year. And Greg Bennett, who won the Monte Carlo race, is in good form.
Well, great race set up here at Mooloolaba. We'll be back with more of the National Championships. Welcome back as we take a look at not only one of the best triathlon venues in the world, but also one of the most challenging courses, Mooloolaba, for the National Championships. And this is the chasing pack in the women's bike leg, led by world champion Emma Carney.
Well, Emma has been working very, very hard at the front of this pack. They're chasing Jackie Gallagher's pack at the moment. Loretta Harrop still has a 55-second lead out there all by herself, and every time she comes past the crowd, they really go berserk. But Emma Carney's group here has reduced the lead on Jackie's pack. On the first lap, it was 30 seconds. It was then down to 10. It's now around about 5 to 8 seconds. And interestingly, Joe King is just behind Emma Carney. This may be the first time ever that Joe King gets off the bike with Jackie Gallagher and Emma Carney together.
That's an excellent point. Joe often gives them such a start, then produces a powerful run that excites everybody, but is not good enough to win the race. Hopefully she can set herself up for a bigger finish.
Well, Joe King has had a great season. She won the Australian Long Course Championship, and then in her very first Ironman went on to win that at the Australian Ironman Championship as well. So she's in good form. She may not have the speed at this point in time because she's still obviously recovering from the Ironman, so she may not have the speed to match it with Emma and Jackie, but she's certainly going to do her best, and she's in a great position.
Well, yes, there's a big difference between the 10k run of this race that's looming and the 40+ kilometres of an Ironman race. But right now we're back with the men. Greg Bennett and Chris McCormack have taken the lead. Bennett splashing himself with water, gulping a little bit down with that reversed cap just in front of McCormack and Trent Chapman. But let's hear what Bennett has to say about teaming with Greg Welch.
My running's improved a lot. I was lucky enough to be in Greg Welch's team in the tour, and we'd have to start the runs together, and he paced me really well through the first 5k, and the last run leg we had, I managed to keep bringing it home, and you know, that experience of running with him has boosted my confidence and helped my running considerably, yeah.
Quite a radical change to Australian triathlon was that Fuji Xerox Tri Tour, where for the first time Australia's leading triathletes worked as a team. But now, Mark Fuel, it's definitely not the case.
No, well, they are going at each other hard. But here's Loretta Harrop back to the women's race, still out in front. She's still holding. We can see one of the packs going back the other way. She's still holding a 50-second lead. She has not let up from the moment she entered the water, and she's just trying to hold on to make sure that she's got a decent lead going into that run, because she is going to be a lot tireder than some of the other athletes who have perhaps ridden in the pack. Here she is out of the saddle. This hill doesn't look much, but I can tell you, when you've got to ride up at 8 times, it's going to hurt you.
Oh, she's a picture of determination, Loretta Harrop, familiar with doing this sort of thing on the St George Formula One Tour, because very often there's very little pack riding. And Loretta is once again breaking the breeze out in front, doing it with a lot of difficulty, and this is what is coming up behind her. Emma Carney settling down to a nice rhythm. Jo King tucked in behind her. This order hasn't changed too much. Lena Edmondston also doing well in that pack.
Well, that pack is still trying to catch Jackie Gallagher's pack. They've brought it back to around about 5 seconds, but Beth Thompson and Jackie Gallagher are doing a good job. Now, back to the men's race. There's Greg Bennett. You can see how fast he is down the hill. Chris McCormack had surged going up that hill to get a lead of about 10 metres. They're heading back now towards the finish, and look at Greg Bennett. The head is starting to log from side to side, but he's really flying now. These guys, there's Greg Bennett. He's surging. He's gone past McCormack. The line is in sight. There's 500 metres. You may have heard "Let's go." That was Greg Welsh on the sideline urging Greg Bennett on. Now that was surge. Chris McCormack now has come back. This has happened a number of times last year. Greg Bennett surges again. Last year, these two raced 13 times. Bennett won 6, McCormack won 6, one of those being the world title, and one of them they tied in Nashtel over in Switzerland. But this looks like Greg Bennett, I think, has broken Chris McCormack there.
Well, could this be Bennett's day? As you said, Mark, he surged and McCormack responded. Bennett surged again, and maybe McCormack, here he comes again. This is his perhaps last chance to respond to the Bennett surge. Has he got enough in the brain and enough in the legs to get hold of Greg Bennett and win this national championship? I'm not sure.
Well, they're now on the flat. Greg Bennett now surging again. Chris McCormack there had almost come up right behind him, but Greg Bennett is surging again. He wants this title, and he wants it bad, and the crowd is really going to get behind him, particularly in this final straight. There's still 200 metres to go, but I think Greg Bennett has broken him. Chris McCormack now appears to have eased off, but Greg is still looking behind him. There's still about 100 metres to go.
Oh, this is marvellous. I feel very happy for Greg Bennett. He has been so often the bridesmaid to the biggest names in world triathlon as he comes up to a lapped runner, heading for that finish line. This could be an amazing achievement. He has won big races before, but never really stamped his name on a major one, and this is a major one, the National Championships, and a red-hot field. Greg Bennett, he is going to win.
And he's not easing up at all. He's still going. He's not being complacent. He knows that Chris McCormack can come back to him. He is the world champion, but Greg Bennett now looking behind him, thinking that the other competitor is Chris. He's surging. He has raced the last 1 kilometre as hard as he possibly can, but he will win this title. Greg Bennett will take his first Australian title, and something that he has dreamed about for many, many years. Greg Bennett is a new Australian champion.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Congratulations to yet another of these talented young Australian athletes, as Di Holden, the sponsor, puts the cap on Greg and congratulates him on his victory. There's the world champion, but not the winner today, Chris McCormack. What a marvellous race that was. Trent Chapman, also a great effort to come in third, and he'd have to be happy with that after such a great effort, surging in that run, trying to beat off the other two. Eventually they beat him, but that is a tremendous race.
I always underestimate myself, and then when I found myself leading with Chris and Chapo, I thought, wow, I wonder if I really can do this. I know I've been running fairly well, and you know, Chris is such a gun runner, you know, he's the world champion, and so to beat him is just like unbelievable. It makes the win just, oh, I'm stoked.
The men's field struggles home. Andrew Johns takes fourth. Troy McKenna, Kiwi, Paul Amy, Shane Reed, Chris Hill, Ryan Carter and Craig Alexander fill the top 10 placings. The women are still on the bike leg. Loretta Harrop still going alone. Welcome back to the Australian Championships, and Mooloolaba is holding its breath as we near the end of the Women's Championship, and one of the great duels of all time, Jackie Gallagher and Emma Carney. Or will it be that way? Loretta Harrop is still out there, alone on the bike leg.
Well, Loretta has done a fantastic job to stay out by herself for the whole 40 kilometres, despite having some of the best triathletes in the world. Emma Carney is known as just such a strong cyclist, and she hasn't been able to pull back Loretta. In fact, she's only pulled back around about 30 seconds out. And here is the second pack, which is now the second and third packs which have joined together. So Emma Carney had pulled her pack up to join. That's Joe King there in the lead. Beth Thompson over on the left. Lena Edmondson just behind Joe King. Emma Carney is in there, and of course Jackie Gallagher. Now here comes Loretta Harrop into transition with a lead of around about 30 seconds. Can she hold on for the 10K run?
Well, this is the question. Just how well can she run off those tired legs on the bike? She'll have to loosen up those quads that have been tightening over the last 40 kilometres, and that big pack behind her, which of course has had things made even easier for them as the size of their group has increased. But Loretta Harrop is being urged on by the crowd here. There are many Queenslanders in this race, but she has been very brave, and they are with her, at least making this a great contest. Being careful there, almost dismounted too early, as Chris Hill perhaps did in the men's race a little earlier. Loretta Harrop into transition.
Well, this is a great lead for Loretta, but she's certainly done it tough today, and it could be very hard on the run. She's gone it alone for a whole 40 kilometres. She's ridden as hard as she can. Here comes the second pack, only 30 seconds behind, and we've had a report that over the last lap, Joe King suffered a flat tyre, so she is not in this pack. Now, that's unfortunate, because it would have been great to see the battle between Carney, Gallagher and King over the 10K run, but she's out with a flat. But Loretta Harrop, she's a crowd favourite here today. They're urging her on. There's the second pack. That was Lena Edmondson coming in, and there is the favourite, Emma Carney, the world champion, and two-time world champion, and two-time Australian champion.
The awesome figure of Emma Carney, and pretty much with Jackie Gallagher, who we saw a flash of just a moment ago. There's Carney again, and these two will virtually be together. But Loretta Harrop still leads this race, and, well, she has high hopes for an improved run leg.
Yeah, I've been working really hard on my run leg, and it's good because the results are starting to show.
Back out on the course, there is Harrop battling away, and a la Greg Bennett, the reversed cap, as we head down the streets here around the shoreline at Mooloolaba, up the hill for the first time, but some big names behind her.
There certainly are. There is, of course, Carney and Gallagher behind her. Rena Hill was also in that pack. Tracy Hargraves, who had a fantastic race at the St George Tour event down in Tasmania. She finished third down there. She's in that pack. Jenny Rose is also in that pack, and Jenny is from New Zealand. But she actually won the first World Cup Series back in 1994. Lena Edmondson is also in there. So, but here's Carney. Carney is already powering. You can see just how strong she is. Gallagher there behind her, and Rena Hill back there in fourth place. So Carney looking incredibly strong as she leads up this first hill.
Oh, she's in magnificent shape. She's been in great form for the ITU World Cup Series. Jackie Gallagher, of course, in equally good form for the St George Formula One Series, but that form is a little bit older and perhaps has had a bit more of a rest in recent times than Carney has. Maybe a little bit underdone, who knows? She shouldn't be for a race of this magnitude. Be interesting to see how it pans out.
Well, both raced the Sydney World Cup just 2 weeks ago. Jackie Gallagher won that. Emma Carney didn't finish the race. But Carney is just so strong. She did her first race back in 1993, and the first international race she ever did was the World Championships in '94 in New Zealand, and she won those. And people thought it was a fluke, but since that time she's proven it is no fluke. I think she won about 6 World Cup races last year, and she's won 15 World Cup races in her career, more than anybody else, whether male or female.
An awesome record that maybe this woman one day will be able to match, but can it start here? at the National Championships of 1998. Loretta Harrop out in front. You can see in the distance there, Carney and Gallagher in hot pursuit. And I say distance, it's actually a little bit further than it looks there, but still probably not far enough for Loretta Harrop.
Oh, it's closing quickly, unfortunately. I think for Loretta, it's just a matter of time. Loretta had a great race at the Sydney World Cup to finish second. She finished second there last year as well, so that seems to be a good race for her. It's a tough, hard, hilly course, similar to here, so it allows her biking and swimming strength to come. But Gallagher now is simply hunting her down, along with Carney. Hopefully we'll be able to see Gallagher and Carney run shoulder to shoulder, but at this point in time, Carney looks the stronger between the two.
That is awesome. Carney has virtually caught Harrop. There's Gallagher rounding the corner now and in pursuit of Carney, but doesn't look all that comfortable as Carney takes the lead from Harrop, putting a runner between herself and the rival Jackie Gallagher. We're closing down to a sensational finish here in the national titles, and we'll be back soon. Could this be another major title for Emma Carney? Another national championship. She's twice world champion. The only woman with a hope of beating her is Jackie Gallagher, and she seems to have been dropped off.
Well, Jackie Gallagher is way behind. After the first lap, there are 5 laps on this run. Emma had a lead of 13 seconds. On the next lap, it was out to 23 seconds. By the third lap, it was 40 seconds and then out to 50 seconds. Emma Carney here has really put on a powerhouse display, and I think it's certain that she will go on to claim her 3rd Australian Championship, and that will equal the record held by Carol Pickard, who won the first 3 ever Australian Triathlon Championships.
Here's Jackie Gallagher, as you said, Mark, recent winner in Sydney, where Carney withdrew from the race. Perhaps for Gallagher, that was the worst thing that could have happened. Carney would have been stung by that in front of one of the biggest crowds for an Australian triathlon in Sydney. She did not finish, so she would certainly like to nail this one, and she's made it very, very strong.
Well, here comes Emma. She is going to win this race. Jackie Gallagher comfortably in second there, but obviously hurting a little bit more than Emma. Emma has looked comfortable throughout the whole day. In the minor placings, there's been some interesting moves. Unfortunately, Loretta Harrop slipped back, and there's a battle between Rita Hill and Rose from New Zealand at the moment. So, but Emma Carney is going to be the winner here today as the crowd welcome her, and she's heading towards the finish line with around about 100 to go.
She's in magnificent shape, and she'll run this 100 very, very smoothly. She really looks as though she's only just starting the run leg. She's that good.
She is a fantastic athlete, a 2-time world champion, and she's just looked so comfortable throughout the whole race today. And really, this is like her home crowd. She lives up at Noosa a lot of the year, and she is a crowd favourite up here. And here she is waving to the crowd and very, very happy to win here.
Of course, Jackie Gallagher not so happy. She's a long way behind, but I guess that will only serve to heighten the rivalry that's developed between this pair. There she is going through the gateway. Emma Carney heading for yet another national title, and this has been a very comprehensive victory. Emma Carney, 1998 Australian champion. What a performance. Gallagher still not even in sight, and look at the physique and also the composure of Emma Carney after winning this race. She's in magnificent shape. Jackie Gallagher struggling a bit, coming in for her 2nd placing. She's certainly seen a few of those behind Carney. She's had a share of victories too. And this thing will only get hotter and hotter as the year unfolds, perhaps all the way to the 2000 Olympic Games. Here's Carney.
It came together well on the run. I think, you know, I've been working hard on it, and every now and then you have a bad bike and a good run, and vice versa, and today it was the run that came good.
Emma Carney typically playing down her efforts here today. A jubilant Jenny Rose from Christchurch, New Zealand, led in the rest of the field, beating Rena Hill in that little battle. Loretta Harrop A great effort. Lena Edmonston, Melinda Walsh, Beth Thompson, Melissa Ashton, Heidi Alexander. That was the top 10. And this has been a top event. Our two champions, Emma and Greg, and all the competitors can be satisfied that their efforts are recognised by all Australians as being the finest achievements in athletic endeavour. Congratulations to them all, and it's been a wonderful end to a great season for triathlon in Australia. On behalf of Mark Fuel and the rest of the Network 10 team, this is Bill Wood.